Hello all, and welcome to tonight's beer review, which I am dubbing the Oktoberfest beer review, because the next 2 to 3 beers that we will be reviewing are Oktoberfest beers, because it is Oktoberfest season, so why not drink Oktoberfest beers during Oktoberfest season? Especially since I love fest beers and Marzens. And I have a confession to make. It's only recently that I learned that there's a difference in between fest beers and Marzens, and that fest beers are a fairly recent invention, within the last 40, 30 years or so. And they're basically beers brewed somewhat like Marzens, using lighter malts and brewed to be a little bit less heavy, both in gravity and in alcohol, in order to be a bit more poundable. Um, so yeah, you learn something new every day. So this one is classified as a fest beer, and this is Weihenstephaner Festbier. And I am probably mangling that German name, but it is what it is. So this is 5.8 ABV, and as you can see, I went to Three Peaks to go and get a growler fill of it, which is probably the only way I'm going to be able to get it here in Hawaii. So without much further ado, let's just get straight to this, shall we? There we go. Looking forward to this. Pouring it into the pint glass. Fairly vigorous pour. 2 fingers worth ahead here. Nicely carbonated for a growler pull. And a nice bright yellow with a fluffy to frothy white to off-white head. Redolent of cereal grains. Grassy and herbaceous hops. Malts are biscuity on the nose. Head somewhat receding fairly quickly. And very nicely carbonated visually. Clear, bright yellow. Excuse me, I'm having a little bit of post-nasal drip. I can still smell, as you can see, but I usually try to eat after, but I brought a burger today and a baked potato, and honestly, there's nothing worse than a cold burger and baked potato, so I just ate that right away as soon as I got home, rather than doing my beer review right away. So bear with me here. I can still smell, but I'll be clearing my throat and sniffling at times, but you know, it is what it is. I'm used to it. But great cereal malts on the nose there. Just very beer smelling, very quintessential beer smell. Onto the palate now, shall we? Sweet and biscuity malts up front. Soft and pillowy mouthfeel. Something of a carbonation bite. Not too strong, but again, this is a growler pull. Long finish of grains, cereal grains. Some hop finish, but mostly clean. Almost honeyed sweetness in the mid to finish. Before those hops come in and kind of clean everything off. Hops have almost like they're fairly subtle. This is very malt forward, but they have an almost herbaceous, grassy taste to the hops in a pleasant way. You know, it sort of adds to the malt dominance here. Again, as on the nose, very beer flavored. You know, you're getting both malts and hops here, and just perfect balance. Again, more on the malty side, but it's very well balanced, if you understand what I'm saying. As it warms up a bit more, hops are coming a bit more to fore in the front to mids. Again, not over dominating the malts, but just adding this brief grassy herbaceous burst there and into the finish. You know, there's not much in the way of flavor notes to this beer, but how it all comes together. It's just so clean and so seamless in its transitions that it's really quite a good beer. You know, you're not going to be drinking this and thinking, oh, yeah, look, I'm tasting this, I'm tasting this. You're just going to be thinking, hey, I'm tasting some really baseline beer points for a style of beer here, and it is just working perfectly. As those hops grow, it's coming less biscuity in, you know, the mouthfeel of the malts and mouthfeel and taste of the malts, and more bready to biscuity. And as it's, you know, as this style was meant to be, this is really quite poundable. I'm pounding this quite fast. Also helps I didn't drink anything with that baked potato and burger, you know, and I didn't have a soda, so yeah, I'm kind of thirsty right now. It's really nice to drink something that is just not all the way out there and not in, you know, an overdone style. You know what I mean? It's really nice to drink something that's just a beer like a beer like beer, you know, a quintessence of beer done very well, you know, not all the way, you know, not pushing the envelope. Sometimes you just want something right in that dead center of like what it means to be beer, and this one really just hits it and does it in a way, you know, that demonstrates that sometimes simplicity is complexity in and of itself. In other words, the sum of this beer, you know, the entirety of this beer is greater than the sum of its parts. The sum of its parts are pretty basic, but how it's all coming together is just great. Which is what I suppose. I've been fairly impressed with products from this German brewery. I've been fairly impressed with a lot of products from, you know, those really old school German breweries. And none of them are really like out there. They're very traditional. They're very stolid, I suppose, and some might say stodgy, but damn, do they put out, you know, some really good, fine, traditional beers. Just something I've been thirsting for in a world of umpty million IPAs. And it's kind of sad that I go to a bottle shop now, and even though it's Oktoberfest season, there are literally only 3 brands of Oktoberfest available. you know, Festbier or Marzens available. Excuse me. And yeah, I just I just want more brewers to get back to the basics. Not necessarily German lagers, but you know, basic English styles, basic Belgian styles, basic German styles, just basic beers. Nothing, no more tropical hops, no more bizarre adjuncts, just beer. Well, folks, I've really pounded this beer, and I still have about half this growler left. So I am going to go and finish this, pour it out, read comics, listen to music, and then start getting ready to head to bed. Well, folks, this has been your beer review for today. Weihenstephaner Festbier. Not too complicated, a fairly simple beer with not too many tasting notes, but how it all comes together, just kind of shows a mastery of craft. And that is your beer review for tonight, folks. Prost.